Hey, I'm Pa, and in this video I'm bringing you a really interesting case. It's about a boy who was accused of a crime that he may or may not have committed. I've wanted to tell you about this case for a long time, I think ever since I started making videos on YouTube. I probably heard about the case back in 2018 and was really eager to share it with you, but for one reason or another, I never did. I hope you enjoy it. By the way, I'm a little sick, so if my voice sounds different, that's why. And as you can probably tell, I just dyed my hair and also cut it. So if it looks a little weird, it's also because I'm still not used to it. So if my bangs are moving around, that's not important. Sorry, let's continue. Before we start the video, I want to remind you that I have two other channels, one for vlogs where I share a bit more about my life, and another about books where we talk about literature. So if you're interested in either of those topics, I would really appreciate it if you go and subscribe. It would mean a lot of support. And speaking of support, I want to thank the channel members for all the support they give me. Channel membership is a monthly subscription that gives you some benefits, like occasional exclusive content, early access to videos a day before, and I also do Zoom meetings with Supreme members. So if you're interested in having a video call with me, I would really appreciate it if you join. It has a monthly cost, so if you can't pay for it or just don't want to, that's totally fine. Thank you so much for watching the videos, and now let's get started with this one. By the way, YouTube added a new feature where you can donate to a video or a creator. So you'll see a little button there. I think it's a heart icon. If you want to support me, I really appreciate it. And now let's get into the video. The case takes place in a rural area of Pennsylvania, United States. Jordan was 11 years old when it all happened. He was a fun, happy kid who liked animals, video games, going out to play with his friends, and he loved sports. He played quarterback on his school's football team, where the coach was his father, Chris. Jordan and his dad were very close. Chris was a single father, and for him, Jordan was the most important thing in his life. They were always together, liked the same things, and considered each other best friends. Besides being the football team's coach, Chris worked at a local factory where he was in charge of shipping. Chris started a romantic relationship with a woman named Kenzie, whom he had known since they were teenagers. She was a hairstylist and, like Jordan, was a single mother. She had two little girls, Janessa, who was 7, and Adeline, who was 4. Kenzie is described as a funny person. She was always smiling, and people recognized her for her beautiful smile. She loved her daughters. For her, her daughters were the most important thing. For Kenzie, her dream had always been to be a mom. She was one of those kids who, when asked what she wanted to be when she grew up, always answered, "I want to be a mom." After dating for a while, Chris proposed to Kenzie. She said yes, and they moved in together into a beautiful house. All the kids seemed to get along. Jordan really liked Kenzie, and even called her mom. Soon after, Kenzie gave the family some big news. She was pregnant. Everyone was excited and happy. Jordan said that Kenzie was always very nice to him, and he liked her a lot. People close to Kenzie said she looked very happy and excited about her new family, especially about her new baby, whom she would name Christopher. They threw her a baby shower, and the very next day she already had all the gifts organized, all the baby clothes washed with a special detergent, and the diapers neatly arranged. She was already ready to be a mother again. When Jordan found out he was going to have a little brother, he was really happy too, and said he had always wanted a younger sibling. By February 2009, Kenzie was already 8.5 months pregnant. On the morning of February 20th, Chris says he was running late for work that day, and Kenzie was very tired from her pregnancy. So Kenzie asked Chris to stay home, to not go to work just for that day. But Chris said he couldn't, he had to go to work. Now he says he really regrets that decision. Jordan mentions that it was just a normal morning. His sister Janessa woke him up. He was asleep in his room, which was on the 2nd floor. That would only be his room temporarily. Later, he would switch rooms with his parents, whose room was on the 1st floor, once the baby was born, and Kenzie could go up the stairs. So his sister wakes him up. He goes to the room downstairs to change clothes, because that's where his closet was. Kenzie was lying down in that room. She was feeling a little unwell, nothing serious. She was just resting because of the pregnancy. There were only a few weeks left before she was due to give birth. Jordan gets ready for school and has breakfast with his sister Janessa in the kitchen. Kenzie tells him to eat quickly because the school bus is about to arrive and they're gonna be late. So the kids finish breakfast, go out the back door of the house, and this happens around 8:15 a.m. In the house, only Kenzie and her youngest daughter, Adeline, who was 4 years old, were there. Adeline was asleep in her room on the upper floor of the house. At 9:00 a.m., 3 lumberjacks arrive at the family's house to work around the property, cutting down trees. Shortly after, one of these lumberjacks turns around and sees little Adeline, 4 years old, crying her eyes out at the door of her house. When he approaches her and asks what's wrong, she tells him that her mom is dead. The lumberjack calls 911. When the authorities arrive at the crime scene, the detectives find Kenzie's body in the bedroom. She was lying down. At first glance, they thought she had suffered a hemorrhage because there was blood around her. But later, when the forensic team arrived and the real investigation began, they realized that she had actually died from a gunshot wound to the head. The authorities contacted Chris and told him he needed to go to his house immediately. They didn't break the news to him right then because they thought it would be a bad idea to tell him over the phone, especially since he would have to drive. So they waited until Chris got home, and when he did, they gave him the terrible news. Chris said he collapsed onto the lawn and went into shock. They took Chris to the police station, where he volunteered to give his statement. They asked him about their relationship and what their last interaction had been like before she left for work. He answered this.
I gave her a kiss, told her I loved her, she kissed me back, and I left.
Chris was considered one of the suspects, but since he was at work and his hands were free of gunshot residue, which you get when you fire a gun, they let him go. The detectives said they had him on the suspect list because he was the husband, but there really wasn't any indication that he had done it. So they moved on to the next suspect on the list, Jordan. The police went to Jordan's elementary school, where he was in 5th grade, to question him. They asked him if anything strange had happened at his house that morning or if he had noticed anything out of the ordinary, but he said no, that it had been a regular morning just like any other. They also spoke with Janessa, who said the same thing. Jordan said that the only thing out of the ordinary he noticed was that there was a black pickup truck near the garage, but he didn't think much of it. At 3:30 a.m. on February 21st, not even 24 hours had passed since Kenzie's death. The family was asleep at home after such a stressful and sad day when suddenly someone knocking at the door woke them up. Jordan and Chris were sleeping together. Chris said it was a miracle they were able to sleep, but after holding each other and crying, they finally managed to fall asleep until someone knocking at the door woke them up. Chris opened the door and an officer handed him an arrest warrant for Jordan. In less than 24 hours, the police had already arrested Jordan for the murder of his stepmother. They took him to the police station and then straight to juvenile detention. Jordan said he felt very confused. He was a little kid surrounded by a bunch of strangers and didn't know what to do. His mugshot was quickly released by the media, and the case became very famous because everyone was shocked that an 11-year-old boy had supposedly committed that crime. The reason they arrested Jordan was because the police said that the murder weapon used to take Kenzie's life was a rifle. The detective said it's a big kind of weapon, not the kind of gun you'd be walking around with on the street at 8 in the morning. Besides, the house they lived in was isolated, they didn't have any neighbors nearby, it was a very rural area, and they thought that given the timing, the hour when the crime happened, it was pretty obvious that it must have been someone from within the family who killed Kenzie. Inside the family's house, they found numerous firearms. All of them belonged to Crest, and a small hunting rifle, which belonged to Jordan. His dad had given it to him for Christmas. According to the detectives, it's very common to have guns in rural Pennsylvania. Especially young men tend to collect them because from a very young age, they're taught to hunt as a sport. So in this area, it wasn't unusual for an 11-year-old kid to have a rifle. Besides this, the police said they suspected Jordan because of their interrogations. In the first one, he mentioned the black truck, but in the second interrogation, he said he saw this black truck, but there was someone inside the truck. He said he didn't know who this person was because they were wearing a cap. Since Jordan changed his story a bit, they thought he made up that there was a man inside the truck, so he wouldn't be blamed. The police thought he was lying because he added details to his story. Personally, I feel like this doesn't mean he's lying. Maybe he remembered that there really was someone there because it was just an ordinary morning. He wasn't paying attention to what was or wasn't at his house. Besides, he's 11 years old. He probably wasn't even thinking about that. And it's common that after telling a story several times or repeatedly, you start to remember details that at first you didn't notice or didn't think were important. They questioned Janessa again, who was 7 years old, and she also changed her statement. At first, she said that nothing unusual had happened, but later she added that she saw Jordan moving his guns, and that afterwards, when she was waiting for Jordan downstairs, she heard a big boom. That's how she described it. Jordan says he didn't hear any noise, and that he didn't touch his gun that day. But the detectives were sure that Jordan was the culprit because he was the only one with a motive. They believed that Jordan was jealous. Jealous of Kenzie, jealous of living with this new family, of having new sisters, and above all, jealous because he was going to have a new little brother. The authorities spoke with Kenzie's family. They asked them about Jordan, about his attitude, and whether he had any problems with Kenzie, trying to confirm their theory. But Kenzie's family said he seemed like a normal kid and never had any problems with Kenzie. Chris was really scared and confused. He had just lost his future wife, and now his 11-year-old son was being accused of her murder. Jordan was denied bail while the investigation continued and information was gathered for the trial. On top of that, he was tried as an adult. The detective said there was enough evidence to blame Jordan. Part of that evidence was that some gunpowder was found on Jordan's clothes, and shell casings were also found in the yard of the house. Chris said that that morning, Jordan was wearing the same jacket he had worn the previous weekend when they went hunting. So that was probably why he had gunpowder residue on him. He also said it wasn't unusual to find shell casings near their property or in their yard because they often practiced shooting there. His dad did everything he could to help his son. He visited him every day at the juvenile detention center. He traveled 4 hours every day. However, he said there was a moment when he started to wonder what would happen if his son really had committed this crime. Jordan had never shown any warning signs, he was never violent, and he didn't believe he was capable of committing such an atrocious crime. But if he really had done it, he wanted his son to receive justice and the help he needed. But after talking to his son in person, he realized he was telling the truth. He knew Jordan, and he knew he was innocent. Chris also informed the police about other possible suspects, someone who actually had a motive to hurt Kenzie. He told them about Adam Hervey, Kenzie's ex-boyfriend, with whom she had a bad relationship. Adam was very jealous, controlling, and even after they broke up, he kept looking for her, to the point of stalking and following her. Kenzie filed a restraining order against him because she was afraid of him. Adam was very aggressive and violent. He even threatened her several times, telling her he would take her life and her whole family's too. And on top of that, guess what kind of car Adam drove? A black truck, just like Jordan described. Despite this information, the police didn't take it very seriously. They thought her dad was just looking for someone else to blame, so people would stop focusing on Jordan. But Jordan didn't even know Adam. He didn't know he drove a black truck. So why would Jordan mention the black truck if he didn't even know it existed? The detectives went to talk to Adam, but from the start, they ruled him out as a suspect. The main reason was because Adam lived 30 kilometers away from Kenzie's house. So it seemed unlikely to them that he would drive 30 kilometers there and 30 back and still have snow on his truck. This happened in February, so it was still snowing. I don't know anything about snow on trucks or snowfalls in general because I've never experienced one, but it seems like a pretty dumb reason to rule out a possible suspect. Besides, Adam had a motive. On top of being a stalker ex-boyfriend and threatening Kenzie, he had just found out that Adeline, Kenzie's youngest daughter, wasn't his. He always thought that both Janessa and Adeline were his daughters. And when he found out that wasn't true, he got furious. Adam cooperated with the police, was very friendly with them, and even took a polygraph test, the one that detects if you're lying or not, and after passing it, he was completely ruled out. The police thought there was no way Adam could have done it, because supposedly he didn't know where Kenzie lived. And even if he did know, he would have to know Chris's schedule to know what time he leaves for work, the kids' schedules to see what time they go to school, and know exactly when Kenzie would be home alone. After getting in without breaking the lock, knowing which room Kenzie was in, knowing where the weapons were, and then committing the crime and leaving without anyone seeing him. According to the police, there was no way Adam could have known this information. But in my humble opinion, I disagree, because first, he was stalking and following Kenzie. So if he kept following her, he could have found out this information, known where she lived, known her family's schedule, and so on. Second, Kenzie got a restraining order against him because he threatened to take her life, and then someone actually takes her life. Suspicious? Third, he had just found out that Adeline wasn't his daughter and said he was furious about it. He even made a post on Facebook saying he felt like a fool because apparently everyone knew except him. So he had the motive, he had the information, he had a record, he was a violent, obsessive, controlling man. But of course, let's blame the 11-year-old kid. So Jordan was the only suspect. I can't imagine the anguish he was going through, just like his dad. Imagine your child being blamed for homicide, while you're also dealing with the grief of losing your future wife and unborn baby. As if that wasn't enough, Chris lost his job. He was in a really bad emotional state and missed a lot of work to go visit his son at the juvenile detention center. Jordan was really scared. If he lost the case, the sentence he was facing was life in prison. And while he was waiting for his sentence, he was locked up with 16 and 17-year-old boys who were bigger than him, stronger, more violent, more aggressive, and were also being sentenced for very serious crimes. When Jordan turned 12, Chris managed to bring his baseball teammates to celebrate his birthday at the detention center. They had a small party there. Jordan was very happy to see his friends again and to be able to have a celebration. Inside the detention center, he kept studying. He discovered his new hobby, Reason. He said he loved to read, especially fantasy books, because he could immerse himself in a fantastic world and escape his reality. He also learned to play the guitar and started playing basketball. Jordan always maintained his innocence. To this day, he says he wasn't the one who took Kenzie's life. He still insists that she was very good to him and that he cared about her a lot. But Kenzie's family wasn't sure that Jordan was telling the truth. They said that Jordan had a dark side and wanted him to receive the maximum sentence. In news reports and interviews, they expressed their hatred for Jordan, saying they hoped he would get the maximum sentence and rot in jail. In fact, when the case happened, despite the lack of evidence, the public and the media were against Jordan. The trial was delayed for a long time. 3 years went by, during which Jordan was locked up in juvenile detention, waiting for his trial. Jordan was already 14 years old and was being charged with double homicide, Kenzie's and her baby's. Remember, she was pregnant and about to give birth. In 2012, the trial finally took place. This one was different because there was no jury and the judge was the only one who made the final decision. Jordan was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. This is when people started to believe that maybe Jordan was innocent. Even so, the public was divided. There were people who believed him, and there were people who thought he had committed this crime. His legal team was very disappointed with the sentence. They believed it was very unfair, so they took the case to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. They argued that the evidence the police had against Jordan was just speculation. The detectives couldn't prove that the weapon used to take Kenzie's life was Jordan's rifle. They only knew it was a hunting rifle, but they didn't know the model, the type of rifle, or anything like that. The officer who saw the gunpowder residue on Jordan's jacket wasn't qualified to make that observation. He wasn't trained for it. So it's not known if Jordan really had gunpowder on his jacket because this jacket was never examined by an expert. They also didn't do a gunpowder residue test on his hands to find out if he had fired a weapon recently. And on top of that, the cartridges found in the yard weren't even for Jordan's rifle. They didn't look for fingerprints in the house, so they couldn't be sure if someone else had entered the house. There really wasn't any evidence that he had done it. The only person who was with Kenzie inside the house after Jordan and Janessa left for school was Adeline, who was 4 years old. They never questioned Adeline because she was 4 years old. She was too little. But when she was 13, she said in an interview that morning she was asleep and was woken up by the sound of the gunshot. When she was very little, she didn't understand what that noise was, but after thinking about it in retrospect, she realized that the sound that woke her up was a gunshot. After that, the phone started ringing. She went downstairs to answer the phone and went to her mom's room to tell her that someone was calling. She thought her mom was asleep because she wasn't responding, and after shaking her a couple of times and trying to wake her up, she moved her, saw the blood, and realized she was dead. Then she went out the front door, and that's when the lumberjacks saw her crying. She said her mom had died, and they called emergency services and all that. But this happened around 9 a.m. That's when Adeline woke up because of the noise from the gunshot. After a few moments, the phone rang, and she went downstairs, and that's when she realized her mother was dead. So the gunshot happened around 9 a.m. Jordan and Janessa had left at 8:15 a.m. So when the gunshot happened, Jordan wasn't even in the house. He was already on his way to school. In July 2018, the trial was held before the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. The court stated that there wasn't enough evidence presented against Jordan to find him guilty, so Jordan was released. After 9 years, Jordan spoke publicly in an interview for ABC News. And what do you want to tell the world about you?
That I'm innocent. That's really the only thing I want people to know.
When the reporter showed him the mugshot from his arrest, Jordan said he was crying that night, that he cried the whole time and didn't understand what was happening. The reporter asked him if he was angry about what had happened, and he answered this: "I'm not angry. I'm upset about what happened, and the way it happened is crap, but I'm not angry. I just want to focus on a positive future." They also asked him about his plans for the future.
I want to be successful. I just want to graduate college, get a job.
Chris is definitely very upset about what happened, arresting and sentencing his son without enough evidence, but he said he's grateful to be with his son and that he's free. Jordan said he wants to focus on finishing his studies and maybe become a lawyer and work for civil rights so that no one else has to go through what he went through. In 2020, news came out that Jordan and his legal team are suing some of the police officers who arrested him and helped get him sentenced without enough evidence. Jordan's lawyers said that the police officers altered evidence, manipulated evidence, tampered with witness testimonies, and always acted with malice against Jordan. For example, when Jordan slightly changed his story to say that there was a man inside the truck, they called him a liar and said what he said had no validity. But when Janessa changes her version of events, they believe her, and now Jordan seems more suspicious. The lawyers believe they manipulated Janessa's words to make her say that she heard that big boom before leaving for school with Jordan. Honestly, this seems to be true. The police were always against Jordan from the very beginning. What do you see in this mugshot? I see somebody who just committed a murder. That's why there's a mugshot. They're also being accused of not following the proper protocol when it comes to interrogating minors. For example, his parents weren't present in the room. They made some mistakes, like not recording the testimonies. I think they recorded some of them, but not others. They also made another mistake. They're not supposed to have a lot of adults in a room with just one child, but they did it anyway. Overall, they didn't follow the procedure properly. When I was researching this case, I saw that some people were blaming Kenzie's sister. However, I didn't find any information about that. But in the comments section, please let me know your opinion. Tell me what you think. Do you believe Jordan is really guilty or not? I think we can all agree that whether he did it or not, there wasn't enough evidence to prove it, and he shouldn't have been sent to jail, much less tried as an adult and sentenced to life in prison. He could have spent his whole life in prison for a crime he maybe didn't commit, or for which there wasn't even a proper procedure. There wasn't enough evidence to convict him. He was just a child, and they ruined his life. Or at the very least, they could have ruined his life. I'm glad that he takes it in a positive way. I would have gone crazy if that had happened to me. Just imagine being sentenced for something he didn't do. But the important thing is that now he's free, along with his father. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the whole case. If you'd like to see more cases like this, I can look for them. If you liked the video, please give it a like. If you're not subscribed, you should subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. If you want to follow me on my social media, here you can see my mediocre Twitter where I don't post anything interesting, but if you want to follow me, you're more than welcome to do so. Same goes for my Instagram, where you definitely have to follow me because I post cute photos and I'm way more active on my stories. Love y'all so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!